Hello and welcome to Angelo's Reviews, and today I'll be reviewing the concert I saw last night. That was 34th of June in Bristol Beacon, featuring horn players Alexander Edmundson, Ben Hulme, Katy Woolley, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by their chief conductor Vasily Petrenko. Now, last night's programme was a very unique and very clever and inspiring programme. The thing I like about Vasily Petrenko a lot, not just as him as a conductor and an interpreter, but I like him a lot in terms of his repertoire choices. And we had three different pieces on the programme. In the first half we had Sergei Rachmaninov's tone poem, The Isle of the Dead. Now, The Isle of the Dead was inspired, Rachmaninov was inspired by Arnold Böcklin's painting of the same name. But he was inspired by, Arnold Böcklin did like 6 or 7 different versions of the painting, and Rachmaninov was inspired by the black and white photograph he saw. When he saw the colour version, when he saw one of the colour versions after he wrote the piece, he said that he probably wouldn't have written his tone poem, The Isle of the Dead, if he saw the colour version. So the black and white photograph he saw really inspired his vision. And some of the climaxes, some of the way the musical lines are constructed, you can hear like the water and the waves, if you like, from the very beginning. It's very quiet in the beginning. It's in 5/8, and you got this really quiet passage in the lower strings, and then gradually gets louder, and then the rest of the strings come in with it. So and I really got a feel of that sort of like water-like wave feel from the performance last night. And there are some really powerful climaxes, particularly in the middle of the movement, and I thought the Royal Philharmonic and Vasily Petrenko really executed these extremely well. Now, Vasily Petrenko is one of my favourite conductors I have seen live. I've seen him live once. Well, this is my second time seeing him live. The last time I saw him live was in the Bristol Beacon, October last year, and he took the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic down to do Shostakovich's colossal Symphony No. 7, the Leningrad, and that was just one of the greatest concerts I've ever experienced in my life. Vasily Petrenko is, I have to say, is an expert in the field of Russian repertoire. His performances of the Russian repertoire are just electric, and his stage presence when he's on the podium, I find he's not showy at all, really. He's not a very showy conductor, and his gestures are so clean, so precise. You know exactly where each downbeat is, and I like how he points at the instruments as well. It's very clear, precise conducting, and his performances of the Rachmaninov, and later we have the Scriabin Symphony No. 3, the Divine Poem. His performances of both of those were extremely clean and precise, and you could hear every single part going on. So going back to the Rachmaninov, it was an absolutely exemplary performance. It was outstanding. You could hear every part, so much emotion going on. It was just, what's not to love? Then we had an interesting, very new piece by the RPO's Composing Association, Joe Hisaishi. Now, Joe Hisaishi is very well known for his he's like the Japanese version of John Williams, if you like. He's very famous for writing like these Japanese animations and these Japanese films. I haven't watched any of them, but I've heard a lot about these films. And he wrote this new piece. It was premiered a few years ago in Japan, but this last night's performance was the UK premiere of his piece called The Border, which is a concerto for 3 horns and orchestra. And the soloists were Alexander Edmundson and Ben Hulme, who are both principal horn players of the RPO. and Katy Woolley, who's the principal horn player of the Royal Concertgebouw Orchestra in Amsterdam. So they were the soloists, and this piece I thought was really, really fun, extremely rhythmic. It's the first movement is in 3 movements. The first movement is very post-minimalist, very inspired. It's very John Adams-like, very much like Philip Glass. It's extremely rhythmic, extremely syncopated. It was just loads and loads and loads of fun to listen to. Very clever writing for the horns as well. Loads of like double tonguing, triple tonguing. I could hear loads of John Adams, but I could also hear lots of Japanese influences as well. The second movement was very interesting. It's very sparse textures going on. It was mainly featured the first horn, which was Alexander Edmundson, who played really, really well. So did the other 2 horn players. But when Alexander Edmundson would be playing this melodic line, the other 2 horn players, Ben Hulme and Katy Woolley, they would put their instruments on the floor, but they would take their mouthpieces out, and they would be like singing through. They would like be like buzzing through the mouthpieces, but it sounded like they were singing. It really, really did sound like they were singing, which is very clever of Joe Hisaishi. And then the third movement, very syncopated once again. It reminded me a lot of like Bernstein's West Side Story. Very syncopated. Yeah, that sort of West Side Story feel. It was like bum ba 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 bum ba bum 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 ba bum. It was just non-stop like that, and it was just lots of fun to listen to. I quite liked the piece. So and they delivered a good performance. The orchestra was really, really good in this. So yeah, again, what's not to love? Then the second half. Well, we had Alexander Scriabin's Symphony No. 3, the Divine Poem. Now, this piece is, well, first of all, it's huge. It's a huge piece written for a huge orchestra. I couldn't believe how huge the orchestra was. It's very, it's like, it's a bit like Wagner in a way. In the second movement, there's lots of influences from Tristan und Isolde, but it's like Wagner on steroids. Wagner on steroids is like. The piece begins with this fate-like motif. Believe it or not, when I'm recording this video, I've actually got the piano, and it begins with this motif, which goes like. And then the trumpets go. So that motif, bum 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 bum, that recurs throughout the whole piece. It's like a fate motif, if you like in Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. He had a fate motif with the horns, ba 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 bum bum bum. Well, and this is like Scriabin's fate motif, if you like, and this recurs throughout the whole work. And well, let's start. There's 3 movements. In the first movement, you got it's very, very turbulent. The tempo marking, no, the title, each movement has a title, and the title of the first movement is Lutte, which is struggles, and you could really sense this. You could really sense struggle in this movement, and you could really sense it, and the orchestra, just some of the climaxes in the first movement, particularly like in the middle of the movement, was just absolutely outstanding. I have to give a huge shout out to the principal timpanist of the Royal Philharmonic, who I haven't seen a timpanist like him before. His technique, well, believe it or not, I'm a timpanist as well, and a timpanist in the local county youth orchestra, and so I've got a bit of experience on the timpani, and his technique and the sound he created on the timps was just absolutely fantastic. The whole orchestra in some of the climaxes just blew me away, blew me to the back of the room, if you like, back of the hall. It was just absolutely outstanding. There was one huge climax with a huge tam-tam crash where I've never heard the tam-tam so loud in my life. It was just absolutely outstanding. And Vasily Petrenko's vision of the piece was just electric. Now, Vasily Petrenko has done recordings of these Russian works before. He's done the Scriabin with the Oslo Philharmonic. And I was listening to his recording and comparing it to some other recordings. And his recording with the Oslo Philharmonic is just simply electric. So I was expecting this performance to be very similar, and it was. It was very, very good. The second movement was very gorgeous, very Tristan-like, very inspired, heavily inspired by Richard Wagner. And the third movement, oh my goodness, there was so much going on. The third movement is Jeu divin, which is divine play. And there's lots of playful moments, particularly, you know, the principal trumpet. It's got that bit, you know, and the ending of the movement. Well, I read the score beforehand, and the last couple of bars, you got these chords, these C major chords, and there's nothing happening in between these chords. It's like these short chords, bum, 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 and then it finishes. But Vasily Petrenko was very clever, and he decided to add a timpani roll, a C timpani roll through these chords. So during the pauses, the timpani would be rolling, which was, I thought, even more exciting. And this performance was just on steroids. This was absolutely outstanding. It's not. I could go on and on and on about how good this performance was. There's nothing bad really to say about it. It was just, it blew me away. I think it blew loads of other people away. It was just absolutely outstanding. And I'm very, very excited to see the Royal Philharmonic and Vasily Petrenko again next season when they come and do their residency in the Royal Festival Hall in London, since I'll be moving to London in September to study music at the Royal Holloway, University of London. So most of my concerts will be at the Royal Festival Hall. So stay tuned for those. And I've got a few shows booked with them. So very much looking forward. So thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Take care.